Good Friday afternoon, everybody. This is Chief Meteorologist Mallory Schnell here at WHAS11 in Louisville, Kentucky. We are going to be streaming for about the next 2 hours, taking any kind of severe weather questions you may have ahead of our severe weather potential this evening and into the early hours tonight. We're also going to have meteorologist John Gordon, retired from the National Weather Service. He's going to join me at some point, probably around the 3 o'clock hour, to also answer any questions and to lend his expertise as we get ready for tonight. But you can see behind me, this is our camera up in Scottsburg from U of L Health. We're seeing a lot of blue sky and sunshine, which we definitely do not like to see out ahead of a severe weather potential, because that means our atmosphere, it is recovering, and that's going to lend more fuel to any kind of storms that do develop later on this afternoon. More so, it looks like this evening. Now, if we can switch over to Max 1, I do have a graphic here. And this is a phone number that you can text with your weather questions, 502-582-7290, and text weather to that. You can send your severe weather photos and videos. You can send us your questions that you may have. I have that pulled up, and I should be able to see them as they do roll in here this afternoon. But let's go ahead and get started and talk about our weather impact alert day. We do have that threat for severe thunderstorms as we carry on throughout this evening and into tonight. I'd say through about midnight. So really we just have to get past the next about 10 hours here, and then that severe weather threat will be down to our south with the cold front taking it with it. Unfortunately, we are looking at all severe weather threats on the table. That means damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes. Yes, those are possible. And as we've been saying time and time again, this is the time to be prepared, to get prepared. Charge your phones. Make sure you have flashlights ready in case you do lose power tonight, and have multiple ways to receive warnings. One way that you can do so, if you're not watching this on your phone, is by taking a photo of the QR code that you see there on your screen and downloading the WHAS11 app. You can get the latest weather information there, and of course you can also stream us if you do lose power. So once again, download our app. It's a great tool to have. You can have access to all of our newscasts and access to all of our live streams if we are going into wall-to-wall coverage later on this evening and tonight. And we do wall-to-wall. What we mean by that is where we're on constantly if there is a tornado warning in our viewing area, any of the counties that we do serve, which of course we serve many counties here in southern Indiana and Kentucky. So in terms of weather threats as we carry on into this evening and early tonight, you can see everything is pretty elevated. You're looking at a large hail threat, a damaging wind threat that's probably the highest. You're also looking at a tornado threat and a heavy rainfall threat as well. So everything is pretty elevated with this kind of setup. We basically have, unfortunately, all in the ingredients that are necessary to produce severe weather. There's still some questions, and let me tell you, the model data with this particular setup today, it's been struggling. Even the high resolution data, it's basically iffy on if we will see any kind of discrete cells, supercells, out ahead of the main line that's going to move in tonight. So we know a cold front's going to bring a line of showers and storms at some point late this evening into the early overnight hours, pushing down to the south by midnight. The question is, will we see any kind of rogue cells out ahead of that line? And if we do so, that is where your hail threat is most enhanced, and that is where your tornado threat is most enhanced as well. But we're going to take you look by look through our outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. I realized I put in each threat and I didn't put in the day one general outlook, but I will pull that up in just a moment. So our day one outlook, of course, I'm sure you saw the update when we were upgraded to level 4 out of 5. That's what you're seeing there in the red. So this is a big swath of an area, including western Kentucky. All of Kentuckiana stretches over to Lexington, Cincinnati, just south of St. Louis, or in the St. Louis metro area, down to Nashville as well. So that's a decent swath, though you could see severe weather anywhere that's highlighted here, especially in the oranges and reds as we carry on throughout the course of the day today. And some of you all might have gotten caught under a severe thunderstorm earlier this morning. Matt Breland was tracking those for us with kind of the first round that had primarily a hail threat with it. But this is the breakdown of the tornado potential. So you don't like to see red and you don't like to see those hatch marks. We do have a 15% chance from the Storm Prediction Center. This means a 15% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of a point. That's the definition there. And anytime that's 10 or above, that's certainly substantial. So this is something that we're watching especially as I mentioned, with any kind of discrete supercells that may pop up heading into the afternoon and early evening, though, as we've seen, we get a lot of linear storm systems here in Kentuckiana. And when we get those, you can also have the spin-up tornadoes out along that line as well. Hail potential, that's what you're seeing here in the red. 30% chance for hail. Anytime you're seeing those hatch marks, I know they look a little distracting, but that means you just have an elevated chance of seeing basically a step above what we're talking about. So hail, large hail, we're talking about larger hail. We have a higher risk of that. But if I zoom out on this, where you're seeing the purple, that's the even higher risk of large hail. We're talking probably 2-inch hail or so in the purple. So that's western Kentucky, southern Illinois, southeastern Missouri, because this is where you're starting to see those supercells pop up. And then once they kind of congeal, you're talking about more of a linear segment that leads us to the damaging wind potential. So this is definitely the highest out of all of them, 45% chance of seeing those severe wind gusts. So anytime a severe thunderstorm warning is issued, it usually means at the base level you're looking at least 58-mile-per-hour wind gust and or inch in diameter hail, which is quarter sized. So we are definitely looking at that wind threat tonight, especially if we see some bowing line segments. You may, if you've been watching some of our coverage from previous severe weather events, anytime something bows out, that's when you can really see. So when I say like there's a curvature to it, if that bows out, that's when you have a high wind threat. When you see the little notches along that leading edge, even along that bow, that's when you can see the circulation and you can tell that tornadoes are trying to form. And that's what we saw on April 2nd. We had a line of storms and we had some embedded tornadoes within them. So even if you get a line and winds tend to be the highest risk, you still have that threat for tornado spin-ups. On top of all that, yes, we are talking about heavy rainfall potential as well. So the good news with the line of storms is it should be moving through pretty quickly when it does. And we'll take you hour by hour through 2 different scenarios in just a moment in terms of our model data. But basically, we've had, as we know, a very active year, very active spring, an active winter. The grounds are saturated, everything is green and beautiful, but we also had rain this morning, especially in south central Kentucky. And because of that, we do have a flood watch in effect tonight. So this would basically be the areas that saw the heaviest rainfall this morning, and then that could see more of that rain falling over the same areas tonight. So this really only takes us through the very early morning hours, Saturday morning, the flood watch. But I would not be surprised if we also see a few flash flood warnings that are embedded as we head into tonight. Those last for a shorter period of time, but as we always say, turn around, don't drown if heavy rain does become a threat there. So once again, radar estimated rainfall. This was over the last 24 hours, taking into account the activity that we saw this morning. So last night, the good news was we did have a conditional severe weather threat, but our atmosphere remained capped. And you probably heard me talk about that for quite some time. But with the atmosphere capped yesterday, that basically meant that we had warmer air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. And with that, that kept our severe weather threat it kept us from seeing any kind of severe weather. In fact, I'm going to pull up a graphic just to kind of explain the science behind that. Today, this will not be the case. We will not have a cap to prevent storms from forming. So yesterday, we did have some storms that were off to our west. We had a lot of humidity. I'm sure you felt it in the air. We had periods of sun and cloud cover, but we had warmer air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. So basically, as storms moved in from the west, they started to fizzle out. We saw maybe a shower, a few rumbles of thunder during the evening hours, and then we had that better round of storms that rolled through as we went into this morning. And that's what we're seeing with the 24-hour rainfall map that I'm going to pull back up here. Just a moment. Computer's a little slow here. Got a lot of data going through it right now. But as you're seeing with the greens, the yellows, even the oranges, that's an estimated 1 to 3 inches of rainfall along and south of the parkways, off to the east into Pikeville as well. And that lines up pretty well with where we do have that flood watch in effect tonight. So in terms of dew points, obviously we have a lot of moisture. Dew points have been in the 60s and 70s for the last couple of days. We've been feeling that humidity throughout this week. Of course, we had some rain earlier in the week, and that was due to that area of low pressure, but most of that was not severe. And then we enjoyed a quiet day before things really ramped up with the heat and humidity. So current dew points, 60s. You can see the low 70s in Paducah, 74 dew point in Memphis, 73 in Little Rock. You can tell where those browns are off to the west and northwest, where you're seeing Peoria and really into Iowa, Nebraska. That's where that front has already moved through. And so a cold front works to cool things off, but it also dries things out. And that is what's to come as we head into this weekend. We'll get much quieter weather for Saturday and Sunday, which is good news. But we're basically squeezing all of that Gulf moisture into our particular region here out ahead of that front. So that's going to help fuel some things. And you'll notice the difference between even Louisville and Indianapolis and Champaign. 86, 81 in Indy, 78 in Louisville, 66 still in Somerset, Lexington, 69, 63 in Jackson. So basically that rain from this morning moved through, cooled things off. We still have some lingering clouds in eastern Kentucky, but that's moving out and temperatures are shooting up very quickly. So on a day like today, it's a day where you do not want to see the sunshine. You would rather cloud cover stick around because once you see that sun, it lends itself to really allowing that instability to grow. And that's exactly what we're seeing. So you certainly need some ingredients for severe weather. You need moisture, high humidity near the surface, which we have with those high dew points. You need a lifting mechanism. And so we definitely have that front that's moving through. That's going to, at the very least, trigger the line of storms later on this evening and tonight. Instability, which we will have since we won't have that cap tonight where we had that warmer air up above us. We're going to have that warmth at the surface, cooler air above that, and that's going to allow for that instability and wind shear. Those are turning winds with height, and that allows for greater tornado threats and organization with any kind of storms that we do see. So on top of all this, you might be feeling some of those winds starting to pick up as well. So we are seeing some wind gusts in anywhere between 20 to 30 miles per hour out there this afternoon. That's going to help usher in the warmth and humidity as well. But in terms of satellite and radar, that is all starting to push off to our east. I do want to just bring you an update really quickly that one of my managers just brought in. JCPS after-school activities are canceled today due to the inclement weather. Once again, any kind of after-school activities for JCPS canceled today. So wouldn't be surprised to see more cancellations and postponements to later dates for certain things as we move onward into the afternoon. Satellite and radar right now, so this is what we're looking at. There's all of that activity we saw this morning. You can see there was quite a bit of lightning. We had some hail reports as well, some severe thunderstorm warnings with it, some gusty winds. Really the strongest storms were south of Louisville, and portions of southern Indiana, you might not have seen any activity this morning in terms of rainfall. That is now off to the east, where we still are seeing some warnings with it as it rolls into Virginia, West Virginia, eastern Kentucky. But take a look off to our west in Missouri, where these storms are just now starting to fire. Also down into Arkansas as well. And these are popping and growing. And at this time, there's no tornado warnings with them. But these are the kind of cells that you really have to watch because they organize themselves very quickly. They're in an environment that's conducive for severe weather. And so you'll start to see that hail growth and that tornado threat as well. At this time, anytime you're seeing those orange or yellow polygons, that means severe thunderstorm warning. If we had red polygons, that would mean a tornado warning. So no tornado warnings at this time. But this is what's going to eventually head our direction later on tonight, the stuff that's just now popping off to our west. And because of that, I think that's a big reason why weather models are having a tough time with this system, because we had the convection this morning. Yesterday was a question mark if we were going to get anything in the evening and overnight hours. Looked like we were going to stay capped. We stayed capped. But if we would have had storms yesterday evening, that would have impacted what we saw this morning and could have impacted what we saw this evening and into tonight. So that's why this hasn't been a cut and dry exact timing, say like we were with April 2nd, when it was very apparent, hey, we're going to have a line of storms. It's going to move through from this time to this time. And it did. It moved in and out. This one's a bit tougher. But as I mentioned, I will take you hour by hour in just a moment. In terms of active watches, we have severe thunderstorm watches in the yellow here. That's off to the east, eastern Kentucky into Virginia, portions of North Carolina, northeastern Tennessee, and West Virginia. That's where the morning convection is headed. And then off to the west around St. Louis, down to Arkansas, and much of Missouri, portions of Illinois as well. That's where a tornado watch is in effect until 7 p.m. Central Time. So that's the storm activity that is forming right now. And then we will have some of that head our direction later on tonight. And just a reminder, it's always good to go over this severe weather terminology, watches versus warnings. So what you just saw on that screen, watches. That, of course, means severe weather is possible in the near future. Watches are issued for hours at a time, and at this point, we don't have any watches in place. We did have a severe thunderstorm watch in place for the storms this morning. That was able to expire for everybody by noon. For Louisville, it was expired before then. Warnings, that is when severe weather is imminent or it is happening. So for, as I mentioned, severe thunderstorm warnings, that means we're talking about wind gust, 58 miles per hour or greater, hail inch in diameter or larger, and then a tornado means that we're seeing either rotation on the ground, or sometimes when there are storm spotters, you are seeing an actual tornado on the ground as well. So that would be if a tornado warning would be issued, and that's when you need to seek shelter immediately. So watches just mean be prepared, of course, and then warnings mean take action, take shelter immediately. So I know many of you all are probably wondering about exact timing. So let's talk through that first, and then I'll kind of loop back around and talk more about what we're seeing on the radar right now. So I'm going to show you two different Futurecasts here. This is called the HRRR, High Resolution Rapid Refresh model. And this is a model that is updated every hour. It's the one that I use a lot, but it's not perfect. It hasn't dealt with the last couple of days perfectly. It did have the shower and storms around this morning, and as you can see, pushing off to our east. We get some clearing behind that. Temperatures are jumping. And then I will say a good thing about the morning convection is it's slowed things down again. So as I mentioned, trying to figure out the exact timing, because I know there's a lot going on this time of year. It's graduation season, it's May, people are wanting to get out and about, there are weddings, there are celebrations, it's a Friday night. So it's been tricky to figure out the exact timing. When you have the longer range models, they basically just show the line that's moving in with the front. But you get the high resolution models, and that's when you start to see the little storms that try to pop out ahead of the line, and you might get a better idea of the convective environment, all the different smaller scale variables that we look at for severe thunderstorm potential. That is what those models are good for. So this particular model, this is the HRRR. This is the latest run that just came in. You can see, I'm going to back it up. It keeps us dry for the next couple of hours. You know, the atmosphere is trying to rejuice itself. It's trying to recover after the morning showers and storms. And it doesn't have anything in Kentuckiana until about 6 p.m. or after. That's probably a good representation of what we're thinking. I would say between 6 and 12 is when I really want you to stay weather alert tonight if we're going to try to fine tune the timing. Because what you're seeing from the west, this is all of that activity that's starting to form in Missouri and Arkansas. So we're talking areas east of Springfield. We're talking areas west of St. Louis right now. The storms have a way to go, but they will be moving quickly. Interstate speeds at some times here. And then out ahead of that, you'll notice these little cells that are down near Litchfield, Mumfordville, maybe even Hardin County. This particular model basically likes that idea of discrete cells popping out ahead of the line. So I'm going to move forward and backward. And obviously you're seeing a lot of purples. I will say this particular model goes a little overboard sometimes with the colors. But purples would mean that you're dealing with a hail threat and obviously heavy rainfall threat, stronger storm potential. So that has those cells kind of lifting and merging together because they're going to struggle to stay supercellular as we continue onward throughout the evening. And then they kind of get sucked up into the front. That's going to move through 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock tonight. So you can see it looks very messy. I apologize if going forward and backwards is confusing, but 6 o'clock, We could see some storms pop. And I do think, I was talking to John Gordon about this, where we had those storms this morning, the stronger storms, especially south central Kentucky, we could have some boundaries left over. And sometimes when you have all this heat, humidity, instability, and you have leftover boundaries, that's when they can really shoot these storms up that we're seeing here on this particular model. So this is a potential. We see some of those cells. I have to watch those cells closely for large hail threat there, and also a tornado threat. And then as this kind of grows upscale, it comes somewhat more linear. I don't even know if you can call that linear. There's segments is a better way to look at that. Segments, and then the main line between 9 and midnight. And then we can all go to bed after that. So that pushes off to our southeast. Things on this particular model looking really messy between about 8 and midnight. Area-wide, more of those discrete cells maybe between about 5 and 8. And then that's off to our east and southeast, and we get to enjoy a much nicer Saturday. So that is one model that we look at. I'm going to show you the flip side. There are some similarities and some differences, and you'll notice here. So this is our in-house model that goes through our weather systems. You'll also see other news stations around the market show this one as well. This is called the graph model, and it has a similar case of, us staying dry for the next couple of hours, giving that atmosphere some time to recover. But as I mentioned, things are heating up very quickly already since we're seeing all that sunshine that we don't like to see. The difference with this model is it's mainly linear. You'll notice you're not seeing those little cells down to the south. You're not seeing that higher, large hail threat and tornado threat in south central Kentucky. This particular model has been very consistent with just bringing a line of storms, or kind of two segments here. It tries to be linear, but you can tell there's some breaks in there. And this comes in after 7. So 7 to 11. This one's pretty quick, but give or take an hour is pretty good. And then it's off to our southeast, once again by midnight. Go home, go to bed. I'm going to back this up because even though this is a line segment, and I'm saying that we're not going to see, this particular model doesn't really have those supercells out ahead of it, I will say we have a high potential of damaging winds. And I do want to point out that if you are under a severe thunderstorm warning tonight, I do want you to take that as seriously as you would a tornado warning. Because some of these severe thunderstorm warnings could carry winds 70, 75 miles per hour. Low-end tornado threat, hurricane strength winds. So anytime you get some bowing segments, as I was talking about, think of like a bow and arrow, the bow part. If it bows out, that's where you can get the strongest winds. And if we get those little notches, which we talked about a lot with the 2 previous severe weather events that we've had here in Kentucky, when you get those little notches, that's when you're tapping into the shear along that leading line and allowing tornadoes to potentially spin up. So this takes us from 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I would still say midnight to be safe, and then it's off to our southeast. Regardless, areas off to our north will be in the clear earlier than areas off to our south, just because it's another one of those situations where a front is going to push everything from northwest to southeast eventually. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of ingredients that come together for severe weather. A big one that we certainly have is a lot of storm energy. We have a lot of storm energy with this because you can feel the dew points. You can feel the humidity out there. The heat is coming back. We're getting the clearing in the clouds. Once again, as you can see behind me, for many of our sky cams. So as I was driving in around 1 p.m., still pretty cloudy across much of Louisville, but we were starting to see that clearing in southern Indiana, and now we have blue sky. So that atmosphere is really trying to recover. We're going to have that storm energy until that front pushes it all down to our south, and then we enjoy some lower dew points over the weekend, lower temperatures as well. And just to kind of give you a heads up on the 7-day forecast, I know most folks are obviously concerned most about tonight, which makes sense. This is your 7-day forecast. So Saturday and Sunday looking a lot quieter. And beyond that, we do have more rain that's on the way next week. So unfortunately, we're going to be in an unsettled weather pattern. There's going to be some severe weather in the plains states, so like Central Plains, Midwest. We're going to be on the far east side of that. I think we'll get some showers and storms around. If we do have another severe weather threat, might be late Tuesday into Wednesday. But I'm currently taking things one storm system at a time. So we'll focus on today first, of course, and then take that in stride as we head into next week. But one thing you'll definitely notice, temperatures cool off next week. There's a big signal for that. It's down to 65 by next Thursday. Our normal high for this time of year is 78 degrees. So we're going to have maybe some crisp mornings. I wouldn't be surprised if some spots outside of the city drop down into the 40s at times next week. So much cooler and quieter weather is on the way there as we head throughout the 7-day forecast. Saturday and Sunday, if you have any plans tonight that could be moved, if you're wanting to go out and spend time with friends or go to a show or anything like that, Saturday and Sunday looking a lot better. Anything outdoors especially looking a lot better. I would hold off until we head into Saturday and Sunday. And once again, I do want to reiterate that JCPS has canceled the after-school activities today due to weather. So just a reminder for that. I'm sure we will have an article on our website for that, and we'll keep that up to date. All right, I'm just hopping on Facebook Live to see if there's any questions. Once again, if you all have any specific questions for us, you can take your phone, and text 502-582-7290. That's 502-582-7920. You can text us. There, you have it right on your screen there. So you can also send us your weather photos and videos when the time comes and when it's safe to do so. So say we're talking about damage tomorrow and you have an area that you think may need more attention, or you just want to let us know where there is particular damage, whether it's due to hail or wind or unfortunately the potential for a tornado, you can send that our direction, and that's great for us to also send onward to the National Weather Service. So you'll notice anytime that we do give storm reports, that's because somebody has sent them to the National Weather Service. So most of the time that's viewers just like you, and we would love to have that information, and also, as I mentioned, weather photos, videos, and if you have any questions during this live stream, we're going to be with you for the next little bit. And as I mentioned before, also, John Gordon is going to be joining me in probably about a half hour or so. So I'm going to stay hydrated, get a sip of water here, check Facebook Live to see if there are any questions. Looks like no questions at this time. Let me also check my page. As I mentioned before, we really just have to get through the next less than 10 hours, probably 9 hours, and then we'll be A-okay. I know storm anxiety is a real thing. It's something that I have suffered with in the past, especially when I was a kid. It's a big reason I'm a meteorologist. And the best thing you can really do is just be prepared and stay informed. Because that way, when there's a warning, you know exactly what to do. You know to take your family down to your safe place in the lowest level of your home, away from windows. And you have that safety kit already on hand. You have a way to stay up to date with alerts, say your power goes out. We all have these days, smartphones. So you can stream our coverage through our app, WHAS11. Just find multiple ways to stay informed as we carry on throughout this evening. And of course, that's just a good reminder in general for storm season around here, because it has been a busy year for us. We had a lot of snow in the winter. We've had several severe weather events. We had an EF3 tornado, east side of Jefferson County. We've had extreme flooding as well. So it's been very, very active. And obviously the weather is not letting up just so soon, but typically once we get into the summer months, we get less of these severe weather outbreaks, so to speak. So let's take you back to the radar here, and I'll show you what we're looking at now and what could be to come as we carry on throughout the course of the day today, more so into this evening and into the early overnight hours. So our max HD radar here, this just zooms into the closest radar spot. So this isn't the best for big picture view. Let me actually change this. I might just have to bring up the satellite radar instead. So let's do SatRad. This just kind of gives you the bigger picture. I like to use that other radar when we're talking about severe weather in our area because it brings up the closest radar site to really zoom into those storms that we're seeing. So this is area-wide what we're seeing right now. You can see this was the cluster of storms that was in our area this morning. That is now off to our east. It does look like there's a tornado warning within there. So you're kind of seeing that notch there. The red would be a tornado warning. And once again, the orange or yellow color would be a severe thunderstorm warning. And then off to our west, this is where you're seeing these cells just starting to fire up, and they have nothing in their way. They have nothing in their way. They're just starting to fire up. And if we just looked at this probably 10 to 15 minutes ago, those storms that are firing up in Missouri, and they were all severe thunderstorm warnings. Now we are looking at some purples and some reds. So with our particular system, when you're seeing purples, that means a tornado has been confirmed. So you see that purple outline there? That is a tornado warning that is confirmed on the ground. This is in Missouri, so this is southwest of St. Louis there. And golf ball size hail. So that's what you're seeing with these initial cells. The really large hail threat, the tornado threat, already starting to see some confirmed tornadoes in Missouri. And then as that continues to march eastward, it should kind of clump more together rather than being as discrete as it is. And as it does so, as that clumps together, that's when you really start to see more of the wind threat. So obviously there's a good reason why tornado watch is in effect off to our west. That's what you're seeing, that pinkish color that takes you down to northern Arkansas and throughout much of Missouri and into Illinois as well, where we're starting to see those cells pop up and producing tornadoes, some confirmed tornadoes, some very large hail. And then off to our east, that severe thunderstorm watch that's in place. That's just due to that convection that's currently rolling through there. Now this morning we did have some severe weather. Hopefully that didn't catch you off guard. We tried to focus in on the fact that tonight is the greatest threat, but that this morning we did have that potential for some storms. Oh, we just got some weather questions in here. Hi, Sam. I hope y'all don't mind. I'm probably going to sit down for a little bit because we're going to be streaming for a while. So Sam says, hi, weather question here. I'm in Louisville between Okolona, Hillview, and Fern Creek. Is the risk for tornadoes real for my area, or are we thinking those risks will be more centered toward the west and south? Thank you so much. That's a great question. So I don't want anybody to let their guard down when it comes to tornadoes, because a tornado is a tornado is a tornado. All it takes is one to be right over your home, as we saw with the last severe weather event that we had on April 2nd. But I will say the greatest tornado threat and the greatest large hail threat, we're talking 2 inches in diameter, golf ball size or larger, is really with these supercells that we're starting to see fire up in Missouri, in Arkansas, and with any kind of discrete cells that we could see pop up this afternoon out ahead of the main line. Now, when we get that main line in here, there's still going to be a lot of energy, some shear to tap into. The last event that we had was a linear segment that moved through here, and we had those embedded tornadoes along the line. So your tornado threat, it's still there if you're in Louisville. In fact, you'll notice that I know these are big swaths from the Storm Prediction Center, but we're basically all equal with our severe weather threats for today. So if we'll take you to the tornado potential, anywhere in that red is considered a 15%, yes, we were 10 yesterday, 15% chance of seeing a tornado within a given area, 25 miles of a point. It's hatched, which means some of these could be longer-lived tornadoes, which we have to take into account. But I will still say damaging winds is probably our biggest threat with the setup tonight. So that's what we have to look at there. Damaging wind potential, 45% of seeing damaging winds within an area. That's pretty high. And once again, it's notched, which means you could see even higher gusts than your stereotypical or your typical benchmark severe weather threats. So in terms of that warning, that means 58 to 60 miles per hour or greater. Anytime you're seeing hatch, that means we could be dealing with wind gusts 65 miles per hour or greater. So that's what we have to pay attention to. To answer Sam's question, yes, the risk for tornadoes is real. It's real for everybody in Kentuckiana as we carry on into tonight. So I do want everybody to stay weather alert regardless. If there is a tornado warning, obviously seek shelter. but I am most concerned with any kind of discrete cells that we could see pop up out ahead of the line heading into tonight. And here's kind of that big picture view once again for our severe weather outlook. Level 4 out of 5 for all of Kentuckiana. So that means take this seriously. This is also the level threat that we had on April 2nd when we did have some confirmed tornadoes. We had an EF3 tornado in the Louisville metro area, and that was with a linear segment, which we will also see tonight. So worst case scenario, we see some of those discrete cells pop up. Best case scenario, still not great, but we have mainly that line that moves through later on this evening and tonight that will likely slowly lose steam as it pushes eastward, but it'll be out of our area before it loses steam there. And you're still dealing with a very strong wind threat. So wind gusts 75 miles per hour can do as much damage as a low-end tornado, and you certainly want to keep that in mind. All right, so let's take a look at some of the 12-hour storm reports. This is what happened this morning. So this was kind of the first wave of any kind of storm activity that we had today. Most of the storm reports were down to the south. I think we had some small hail reports. They were smaller, I believe, off to the north. There's one hail report, ½ inch, in Henryville this morning. Excuse me. Like so many around here, I've been dealing with allergies for the past couple of weeks, and that dry, itchy throat is real. Okay. So this is all the storm reports from this morning, primarily hail, and that's why we did have some severe thunderstorm warnings in place for a couple of hours this morning as that first wave moved through. You can see a lot of hail reports. I didn't see anything that was super alarming in terms of size. Most of this, ½ inch to an inch or so. So these were kind of your run-of-the-mill severe weather alerts that we had this morning, severe thunderstorm warnings. And then tonight is when we could kind of see those more elevated severe thunderstorm warnings, where you're dealing with the larger hail, and you're also looking at the potential for stronger than 60-mile-per-hour winds. Did get another questions looking at possible long-track tornadoes. Yes, that is certainly possible. Anytime you're seeing the hatched we can go back to that tornado threat. Anytime you're seeing kind of the hatch marks in here, that's when you have that elevated risk of seeing stronger tornadoes, so an EF2 or larger and longer track tornadoes that are able to just kind of hang together for a little bit longer. So this tornado potential, 15%. Probabilities may not mean too much to you all, but I know people like to see these graphics. This means 15% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of a point. Oh man, that keyboard's not working. All right. I'm just seeing if there's anything new from the National Weather Service. Thankfully, we have this nice chat where we keep up to date with the latest discussions and also storm reports. Some of those are still rolling in from the overnight or more so early morning wave of storms, but nothing new from them at this time. We're all kind of just sitting and waiting. And I know that kind of makes the anxiety increase as we just sit and wait. Once the storms are here, we can track them, we can get them through here, and we can move on. But until that point, we're kind of just waiting to see how the environment responds and waiting to see how storms respond as well. So let's actually take a look at currents here. In terms of current temperatures, so you can see Louisville, we've bounced up to 78 degrees. We're at 80 degrees in downtown, 80 in Sellersburg, 80 in PRP and Valley Station as well, 80 in Linden. Big picture view showing temperatures in the 70s and 80s all across Kentuckiana, and you can see that view behind, seeing more of that blue sky and sunshine out there. So once again, that's not great because that allows that atmosphere to recover between the morning wave and the afternoon wave of storms. So in terms of how much available potential energy, convective available potential energy we have, or storm fuel is another way to look at that. Once again, sorry. This is what we're looking at. So the reds and kind of that gray color is showing where the atmosphere is still somewhat worked over. So that's basically south and east of Louisville, because we had showers and storms and also the cloud cover linger a little bit longer. But where you're seeing those bright yellows that are almost white on this, that is where you have the most energy right now. So, in fact, let's see how far back I can loop this. So we actually had some fuel this morning, and then you can see it got eaten away by the showers and storms, but it is quickly building back in from the west. So right now, that's how things look, and we're going to continue to see that recovery as we head into this afternoon over the next several hours, just because those temperatures, they are climbing, and those dew points are climbing once again as well. So this is where we stand with temps, 70s, 80s. And this is where we stand with dew points, well into the 60s and lower 70s. Okay. Just making sure I'm not missing any questions. I have the text questions up. I also have, let me pull back up Facebook Live. Once again, if anybody's just hopping on here, thanks for joining in on our live stream. This is a more casual way to kind of deliver this weather information before things get more active heading into this evening and tonight. Of course, we'll have our normal newscast starting at 4 p.m. We're on air from 4 to 6:30 on WHAS11. And then when the time comes, we can go into that wall-to-wall continuous coverage for you. That's if we are dealing with tornado warnings that we have to stay on air for. And we'll get you through this as we carry on into tonight. It does look like the risks will be coming to an end by 11 or midnight at the very latest. Looks like we have a couple comments here. What time are the storms starting? Yeah, let's take you through the Futurecast one more time. Also, someone asked about, should Breckenridge County officials reschedule graduation tonight? I have been talking to St. X about their graduation tonight. It's a tough decision. Obviously, nothing should be outside tonight. That is a given. In terms of indoor activities, it hinges on how comfortable you all are at being in a place that's away from home if there is severe weather that marches through the area. Obviously, if anything can be rescheduled to Saturday or Sunday, that's fantastic. You're not going to have any weather issues those days. But as far as tonight is concerned, I would just say be safe. Look at the radar before you head out, and look at the radar before you head home. There are so many tools that we have at our disposal these days. Every station has an app. We're all going to be streaming as well. Just kind of get that updated information so you know where storms are, and if you have that window to get where you need to go. And then if you are away from home, just make sure you know where you and your family need to go in case there is a warning. Most of us get tornado warnings on our phones these days. If you're in the Polygon, you can get that wireless emergency alert that gets sent straight to your phone. That's very loud, it beeps, it buzzes, and lets you know that there's a tornado warning or flash flood warning or what have you in your particular area. And wherever you are, just get away from windows, lowest level of the building that you're in, and you can ride out that storm. But basically, if you don't have to be out tonight, I would say between about 7 and 11. That might be kind of the sweet spot. Could occur a little bit earlier. I would say as early as 6. Wouldn't be surprised to see a storm at 5. But I would say probably the busiest that will be tonight looks to be between about 7 and 11, now that we're starting to see that weather information come together after this morning's round of showers and storms. So we can take you back to the satellite and radar and show you what we're looking at right now. The activity from this morning, once again, that's far off to our east, and we're seeing all of that clearing behind. We're seeing some of that sunshine, which we don't like to see. And then the storms are starting to fire up off to our west. So that's what we're seeing in Missouri, down to Arkansas. And as I mentioned, some of these already triggering, I mean, they just popped. They're already starting to rotate and are triggering some tornado warnings. So these will kind of merge into more bowing segments as they head our direction and increase our wind threat rather than tornado threat, though that tornado threat does stay elevated through tonight. So let's take you through, if you're just now hopping on this stream and you didn't catch the Futurecast, we'll walk you through that because this should answer some questions in terms of timing. And make sure I don't miss out on any additional questions. Okay, so I'm going to show you two different model scenarios. Both high resolution models, both get updated either hourly or every few hours throughout the course of the day. And they take into account kind of the smaller scale weather elements that we look at for severe weather potential. So as we had, this is the high resolution rapid refresh model, the HRR, as we like to call it, HRRR. So this has us staying dry and quiet for the next couple of hours here. As temperatures continue to climb, we have more of that sunshine. Temperatures continue to climb throughout the 70s and 80s. And this is the newest model. We're actually looking at this together. Okay, so looks like we just got another hourly update in here because this one looks different than the one that I just showed like 20 minutes ago. So this must be, as I mentioned, this one gets updated every hour. So the previous update had more of these. Do you all see that little cell east of Campbellsville on your screen? I can't circle it because of the graphic that this is. So the previous update had more of these popping out ahead of the line. As I mentioned before, we could have some boundaries left over in south central Kentucky. Some of these cells might try to pop out ahead of the main line, and with those, I keep using the words discrete, spelled differently than the discrete that you might know, but these singular cells, when those pop, that's where they have the very large hail threat and the heightened tornado threat. So it looks like this particular model run has less of that. And obviously, we're looking more so at where you're seeing the yellows, the oranges, the reds, the purples on this map, rather than kind of the greens that stretch out in front of it. But this is still looking to be after about 6. So that gives us another 4 hours to heat up. Temperatures in Louisville were in the upper 70s, but we've already, basically that sun came out, temperatures popped already. So I would expect us to actually be warmer than the model data shows you on that screen. But, okay, 6:30. Oh, it does have stuff pop out ahead. That's more so east. So we're walking through this together. So the question is, will we have those storms pop out ahead of the line? If so, we really have to watch those for those spin-up tornado threats. So that's kind of where you're seeing more of those dots. And then the main line still swings through here between about 8, 9, 10, 11. I mean, I will say the one thing that every model has in common, even the long-range models that don't show any kind of those pops out ahead of it, is it all has us out of here by midnight. So this will not be something where you're having to stay up until 4 a.m. Because once that front decides to swing through here, it's going to take everything along with it. So that was the HRRR. This is the graph, which is the in-house model that you'll also see other news stations use. This is basically one that comes with our weather graphic system. And this one doesn't do a poor job, but sometimes it underdoes some things, if that makes sense. So the HRRR that we just saw, sometimes it can exaggerate things a little bit. And this one can kind of be on the opposite edge, maybe not show as much rain as we might see. But this one doesn't have anything out ahead of it. So that's kind of our big question mark. If between 5 and 8, will we see these cells pop out ahead of the main line? If so, that's where your hail threat will be greatest and your tornado threat will be greatest as well. Now, that's not to say we're not going to have hail and tornadoes within this line that rolls through here. It's just going to be more subtle, and it'll be more of a wind threat with embedded tornadoes, which we are used to here. That's something that we tend to get in the Ohio Valley, these linear segments that when we get those notches along that leading edge, that's where you can get those spin-up tornadoes. So this particular one has this line moving through between 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's out. This is very quick moving. I'm actually going to open this up. I don't know if that's going to alter what you see on your screen. I'm just going to check one thing really quick here. Okay, so that's base, because we probably can't get composite. Okay. Let's just look at one other model, just because. See if this comes in. This is the North American model, really messy. So that's one other option is where you have, yeah, this one's just really messy. It has a lot of convection down to the south. Things try to pop, and then it really doesn't have the main line in here until 10 to midnight. So I would say if you're looking for timing, to be weather alert starting at 5, but especially between about 6 and 11. That is the most that I can really narrow this down. And then once we get this line out of here, we'll start to see that all clear from northwest to southeast. So question is, will things pop out ahead of the main line? This one has some stuff popping out ahead of the main line, as you can see, 6, 7, 8. And then that main line driving all of this from northwest to southeast. So obviously our southernmost counties won't get the all clear until later compared to Louisville and areas up into southern Indiana as well. But that's just going to be something that we do, of course, continue to track as we head into tonight. So I do want to pull back up the 7-day forecast just to give you kind of a breather as we head into this weekend. We're going to get a break. Saturday and Sunday look fantastic. So I mentioned before, I know some people are wondering, should we reschedule this? Should we not go to this event? Unfortunately, I don't like giving too much guidance on that, in terms of whether schools should cancel something, because they tend to have their own protocol and they tend to have their own safety precautions as well. Obviously, if there's a tornado warning while at school or anything of that nature, your kids know what to do if that does occur. But I would just be super cautious, and as I mentioned before, check the radar before you head out. If you don't have a radar app, then just check a stream or check a newscast. We're all going to be on tonight, no matter who you watch. We're all going to be streaming as well. And if we are in continuous coverage, as I mentioned, wall to wall, that's where we break through whatever programming ABC has on, and we stay with you and we talk for a while, could be hours on end, depending on if we have continuous tornado warnings or if we have just very, very strong winds. Because I'm going to be honest with you, if we have 70 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts, I'm going to be hopping on for a little bit longer until that Boeing segment moves out. But Saturday and Sunday looking fantastic. A little bit cooler, 70s, lower humidity, drier, a lot drier. A little bit breezy tomorrow behind that system, but we can handle that. Unfortunately, we do have more rain on the way next week. I haven't even delved into this too much because obviously we've all been focusing on tonight for good reason, but next week we do have rain chances returning. Water break. We have rain chances returning more so in the Great Plains region, and we'll be on the far east side of that. So that's what you're looking at Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Severe weather, not out of the possibility, late Tuesday into Wednesday. But really the greater threat will be more so in the plains. We'll be off to the east of that. And then regardless, there are big signals of us cooling down Wednesday and Thursday. So we're going to enjoy some temperatures back in the 60s. It's going to feel a little bit cool for late May, Wednesday and Thursday of next week, but we should get some drier air back in here. So, all right, I'm going to start from the top. For anybody just hopping on here, Meteorologist Mallory Schnell here with WHAS11. We're kind of doing a more casual, long-form stream. So we're going to be with you now through almost the start of the 4. I might have to hop off a couple minutes before the 4, obviously, to just make sure that everything is set for the newscast. But if you have any specific weather questions, we've gotten a couple in here. You can text those to us, 502-582-7290. This is also the same phone number that you can use to send us your weather photos and videos if down the line you do have something that you want to show us in terms of a storm report. But once again, yes, today is a weather impact day. We've been talking about this all week. We did have some strong storms this morning, and now we are watching for the evening round. So we're kind of like sitting ducks right now. We're just waiting to see where things pop, if anything pops out ahead of the main line. If not, we're just waiting for storms that are currently in Missouri. So 4 hours away, just west of St. Louis. And with tonight, we're looking at the potential for strong winds, hail, tornadoes. So make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings. If you're not watching this stream on your phone, you can take a photo of the QR code. Actually, here's a bigger one that I'm going to pull up here. You can take a picture of the QR code that you see on your screen. That will take you to the app. And that way you can not only get weather information, but you can also watch us. You can stream us. If your power goes out, you can continue to watch us on your phone. So it's a great tool to have. I will be here tonight with meteorologist John Gordon, retired from the National Weather Service. He's going to be helping me out again with our coverage tonight. We'll also have Reed Yaden, John Humphreys out in the field, chasing any kind of storms that do fire up. So we certainly got you covered, and reporters on standby if we do have any kind of damage left over. So weather threats, yes, they're all on the table here. Damaging winds, probably the highest tonight, especially if we see any kind of bowing segments here. And then beyond that, we're talking large hail, especially with the onset of storms. If we see any of those cellular storms that we've been talking about, tornadoes, yes, unfortunately, and also heavy rain. So don't want to downplay that flash flooding threat because it is certainly possible tonight. This is the excessive rainfall outlook from the the Weather Prediction Center, excuse me. We got the Storm Prediction Center, we got the Weather Prediction Center. They've kept us in a slight risk. This could probably be upgraded a bit because we do have a flood watch in place for our southernmost counties, basically south of the parkways and into eastern Kentucky as well. This takes you down to the Tennessee line. This basically takes us through the early morning hours tomorrow. So this is there's two reasons for this. Obviously, we had the rain around this morning, and then you're going to get more rain over the same areas heading into this evening. So you can see the radar estimated rainfall over the last 24 hours, where you're dealing with those greens, yellows, 1 to 2, maybe even 3 inches in some spots where we saw those heavier storms that were somewhat training over the same areas. You have saturated ground just in general, and as we have mentioned time and time again, we have a pretty juicy atmosphere. Dew points are in the 60s and 70s, so we have a lot of fuel to tap into here. And this is just the reality of live TV. John Gordon just hopped in here. John, your mic is on the weather table off to the right side. So he's going to join us in just a bit. But current dew points, obviously, we have enough of them. We have dew points well into the 60s and lower 70s. So the atmosphere, it is recovering after the morning storms. And hey, Louisville, we are up to 81. So we have jumped quite a bit now that we've had that clearing in place. You can see more of those reds, temperatures in the 80s off to the west as well. And things are still cool where there's cloud cover, showers and storms ongoing off in eastern Kentucky, Lexington, Somerset, Jackson, Charleston into West Virginia. That's where the morning storms are continuing, or the storms from this morning are continuing as they push off to the east. But now that we are seeing that clearing, we are rebounding very quickly. And obviously we don't like to see that sunshine. But here's that look outside. This is from our First Savings Bank UVail health camera. And obviously you can see blue sky, sunshine. So big change from even just the last hour or two. As those clouds clear, that atmosphere tries to recover after the morning rain. And tries to destabilize again out ahead of any kind of storms tonight. So I can actually zoom into more of our Kentuckiana. Let's see our exact viewing area. So this is what we're looking at in terms of temps. You can see more of those lower 70s down to the south where cloud cover has lingered a little bit longer, of course. Took longer for that rain to move out. But as I mentioned, we're back up to 81 in Louisville. Don't like to see that, and more of those lower 80s off to the north as well. And with that, you have more of that fuel to tap into. So this is a look at the potential energy, the energy that we have to tap into for storms. And I can actually put this on a loop. You can see just over the last hour, you see how it moves from west to east? So it's filling back up. That atmosphere is recovering after the morning rain very quickly. The bright yellows that you see on your screen, that is where we have the greatest amount of storm fuel. This particular legend says extreme storm fuel. And there's certainly a lot to tap into due to the heat and due to the humidity that we are seeing. So here's the latest look. We're going to take a big picture view of the SATRAD, the satellite and radar across the region here. So first cluster of storms, that is now out of Kentucky, it looks like. It looks like it's even out of eastern Kentucky. Clouds are clearing from northwest to southeast. So we saw the sunshine first in southern Indiana, and now we're starting to see it in our Kentucky counties. And you can see what's popping up off to our west that we're watching. So all of these storms that are now encroaching on St. Louis that are beginning to pop. There's already been a few tornado warnings with those particular cells. And we'll be watching those over the next several hours as we gear up for what is to come. So at this time, we don't have any severe watches in place. That's off to our east. That's going to continue to cancel. And then the pink color, the tornado watch that we're seeing in Arkansas, in Missouri, and also into St. Louis, into Illinois as well. That is for those storms that are just now starting to pop off to our west. So nothing at this time, but obviously we're keeping a close eye on that, and we'll let you know when that does change for us here locally. All right. Is your mic on? Yep. Can you all pull up John? He's on mic 6.
Can you just verify you can hear me?
Yes. All right, they can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, this is super casual live stream.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi, John Gordon's here. Here, I'm going to pop myself down or else I'm going to be a lot taller than you.
Okay.
All right, John. So I know you've been looking at a lot of stuff today.
Yes.
What are your general thoughts? What would you like to tell the people?
Okay. All right. So, folks, as Mallory was just telling you, look in Missouri right now. They're getting enormous hail east of Springfield, Missouri, in the Ozarks, east of Springfield. That's sadly approaching not far from Poplar Bluff, maybe a little bit north. So basically an anchor point from St. Louis down to somewhere near Poplar Bluff, just west of there in the Ozarks. Kabul, I remember those towns. West Plains. That's all going to be moving east. Those are supercells.
Yes.
So you have a warm front that's elongated along the Arkansas-Missouri border. That was the initiation point. Up top was this big jet streak. Pushed in there. It's like an exhaust, it's like a chimney mechanism. And they went from nothing to...
I mean, this just pops.
Boom.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get some reports in there, but I mean, I think they had in there ping pong balls to larger golf balls in those warnings. So what's going to happen is that's going to move east. The worst thing that can happen right now is if something was developed ahead of all that rain that came through here this morning rather. There was a lot of hail reports all across southern Kentucky, and a lot of 1-inch hail looked like to me.
Yeah, I can pull that up here.
What did we get?
Mainly about half of an inch to 1 inch, a lot of 1 inch.
Yeah, like we said yesterday, if you watched our streaming, we talked about the morning would have all this rain with some hailers, and there's a one inch in Grayson County, Litchfield, down there towards Taylor County, Greene County.
Yeah.
All right, so that came through. And the worst thing that could happen is the sun came out. Well, the sun came out, and we are, what are we up to now?
We're at 81 in Louisville.
And we shot up like 8 degrees as soon as the sun came out very quickly. So right now there's a lid, a cap, like a suppression thing that's on top. And that's what's saving ourself right now because we're very unstable.
Right.
We have a lot of wind shear. Notice how muggy it is? What are our dew points now?
Let's pull that up.
It's probably a big number. So she's pulling that up there. I bet you're going to see a lot of 60s, maybe even low 70s near the border there. Look at that 71 in Grayson County.
Those are starting to pick up.
So you got a lot of fuel. So one thing that I think a lot that we really need to mention is besides all the severe weather risks, I think there's a big flood problem because the rates are going to be incredibly high. You're going to get near zero visibility when these storms come through. Very heavy rain, hydroplaning. Not a good place to be on the roads when this pushes through this evening. You did a Futurecast with them, right? And showed them
Yes. So I was walking them through the latest HER.
Okay.
And then also...
High resolution, reflectivity.
Yeah, I was trying to
we have so many names. We could give you a quiz. ARW, WRF.
We like acronyms.
FP32, yeah.
Especially the National Weather Service.
We are terrible.
Yeah. So this is the latest HER that just came out. So I was just kind of...
3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing until about 6.
Which I agree on. Stop right there. Okay.
Yep.
I think that's legit. Mallory and I yesterday thought about 6 to 7 o'clock in the western counties. That's Du Bois County approaching Perry and Crawford County. Notice how that kind of, can you draw on that thing? I don't know if you
Not
can.
with this
Okay,
particular
but
one.
that's kind of like a bowing segment. Look, picture a bow and arrow.
Actually, I might be able to.
See right there? Look how that kind of bows out. That's a strong indication of wind and intense rain right now. Now, where's the tornado threat on that? The tornado threat on this is a little different. At least on the segment by Jasper that Mallory's doing, that would be right on the leading edge of the line, these little spin-ups. Now, if you go back to the southwest in the Wabash, way down there on the border, if you go out to the Western Kentucky Parkway, those look like supercells.
Yeah.
Now, those are the ones that look like large hail and tornado threat further south. To me, I would take the WG Western Kentucky Parkway and go a little bit north. I think the main threat is wind. Heavy rain and lightning. I think if you go a little bit more south and west, I think it's tornado and hail.
Yep. I
agree?
agree with you, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about it on the phone, and then this just like shoots up.
But look at these down here. Look how they look.
Yeah,
They're more renegade.
yeah,
Yeah.
very menacing. But yeah, the question has been, will we see things pop out ahead of this main line? And we kind of just have to sit and wait
Yes.
because some models have nothing and some models
What the
have
satellite?
more pops.
Let's do a visible satellite. I think that would show the viewers a lot because this is how it all starts. Without surface observations and looking at satellite, we can't do any modeling whatsoever. So by seeing what's going on, you see right now there's a complete clearing all there from Louisville out towards Carbondale. So that is allowing things to get going. Can you go to the SPC page or can you not?
On here or over here?
Over there, over there. Do you mind?
Let's see. My keyboard was acting up on me.
Well, in theory. We'll try to get that up there. I just like to look at that visible really, really quick.
Yeah,
on there.
you might be able to over here. Just be careful with your GR.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you just hit Chrome, you can.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let her do her thing. I'll be back.
Yeah, so basically now we're just waiting to see if things do pop. Because obviously we're watching for all of these storms. As John mentioned, big hailers, tornado threat off to the west in Missouri. And this will eventually head our direction. So waiting to see if anything pops out ahead of that. It does look like, oh, we got a little guy. That just pop up.
Yeah. Watch that one for hail.
Yeah, we're watching this little guy
Yeah.
heading toward
here we
Dare
go.
County.
Here we go. Here's the visible. Can we go on my screen? I don't know how you.
Yes.
I don't know how you do that.
Give me just a second.
In fact, you can find that there.
Bear with us.
Yeah. We have some very good tools. I'm just still learning. I'm new here. Everyone be patient. Okay, that's the latest satellite. Look what's going on out in Missouri right there. So you see this convergence line, those little bubbles there along Interstate 44 from St. Louis down to Springfield. We call it agitated Q, agitated cumulus. That's where the initiation was. And then on the front side, you see all these supercells and these big blow-offs, these big bubbles. That one right there has got huge hail, guarantee it, near West Plains, Missouri, around that area. That's moving off to the east. Now, what Mallory just found astutely was down there in the southeast. You can do a little bit right there. You can see a little bit. So what we like to look at is, this is a great tool. If you want to learn about weather and you're a nerd and you're a weather weenie, you're a young person, go to the SPC mesoanalysis page. I mean, it's got everything. This is genius. So one thing we can look at is a couple quick things. You look at the observations, and these are the surface observations. Hi. So we have a visitor. These are the surface temps. So it all starts with observations. We're 81 here at Ali International. It's 74 with the cooler air over there in Lexington. Let's go back off to the west. Carbondale's 84 over 70, very muggy and unpleasant. And there's those cells developing on the eastern side of the Show Me State, moving to the east. That's unpleasant. Cape Girardeau, 73 Dew Point, 73 Paducah, 74 at Hopkinsville. So you got a moist, rich air right there. So let's look at some of the indices. We look at wind shear. So bulk shear is really the accumulation of the winds in the lower layer and how much strength it has in the thing. So you're seeing between like 50 and 60 knots Look at that stuff in there, right there in eastern Missouri. That's really going to progress things here. I think that 7 o'clock time is not a really bad time. Here's one number. This is precipitable water. This shows you the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. And look at this unpleasantness. 1.4 sticky. It's a bad hair day, ladies. 1.4, 1.5 inches in the atmosphere. That means if you took the whole atmosphere and you squinched it out, you would get all this. So we know that's in there. The one thing that we'll be looking at tonight to see if we can get tornadoes is what's called the lifted condensation level, the LCL. And the lower that is to the ground, you see 750 meters. That's about 1,700 feet. The lower that is to the ground, the better likelihood. Even if something's spinning, if it's spinning at 2,000 feet, we really don't care.
Right.
Unless you're in an airplane. So that's what we really are going to be looking at to see if we can get things down right here. I like to look at the significant tornado parameter, and it's maxed in eastern Missouri. So I suspect some of those warnings may become tornadic warnings. Are they all severe so far?
The ones in Missouri, a few have been tornadic.
Oh, there you go. Well, imagine that.
Yep.
Imagine how this works. One thing that you saw Mallory showing last night was the amount of fuel. I forget your name. You called it the fuel meter.
I just call it fuel, yeah. Storm fuel.
Storm fuel. 5,500 joules of surface-based CAPE in southeast Missouri.
Ooh.
That's very bad.
Yeah.
So this is the real deal, folks. We are not live streaming because we're bored, because I really feel we're trying to help you make informed decisions. Tonight there's graduations. There's a motorcycle event in Taylorsville. There is...
yeah, we have a whole list right here.
Matt did it. That's great. Because I heard there's a big concert somewhere in Bardstown tonight. If you're in Bardstown tonight, there's going to be storms 7, 8 o'clock tonight. Guaranteed. Nelson County. What else we got in here? Headliners.
Let's see. There's a musical, Shucked. There's comedian. There's shows, headliners, graduation parties, of course. JCPS did cancel all after-school activities for this evening.
Yeah, they canceled
And the
it.
downtown drive-in. Yeah, should not be at a drive-in tonight.
Yeah, not a good. That's really not a good thing. Let me see a couple quick things here. I'll just show the folks. Hail parameters. We kind of look. That's maxed out in eastern Missouri. The storm relative, if you look and turn with height, that's where the storms are. See, we're in this air mass recovery right now because we had, 3 to 4 hours of rain this morning or something like that.
Yep.
And now we're recovering very, very quickly. So why is this really happening? As you can see, this wind. Look at these strong winds. These are southwesterly, west-southwesterly. And there's 80 knots right there near St. Louis. That's at 15,000 feet. If you go up higher, you can see that we have 100 knots of wind. That's 115 miles an hour. And if you look at this little color right there that goes to western Missouri, this is called the exit region of the jet stream. So we're getting all of this wind pushed to create an exhaust mechanism. So 100% probability there will be warnings tonight.
Yeah,
So.
I agree with you.
Yeah, so you can go off my screen. Thank you.
All right, that was a good mesoanalysis from the great John Gordon.
No, not really, but I appreciate that.
We appreciate you. All right, so let's take you back to
Pressure changes.
SATRAD on what we're looking at here. There was all the junk from this morning, and yeah, once again, you can see anytime just...
There's tornado warning now.
Yep, another lesson on this.
Let's go to that.
The orange, yellow color, those are severe thunderstorm warnings. Red color, tornado warnings. It turns purple, the outline in our particular system, if it's confirmed, which means it's on the ground. But that's moving into the St. Louis metro pretty quickly here. I wonder how quickly these storms are moving.
Yeah, I'm going to Springfield right now. We'll look at the radar.
Okay. Moving northeast at 60 miles per hour.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, there we go. You want to do a little radar? Want me to do a little radar?
Yes, please. Let me pull you back up.
Yeah, please. Okay.
Give it just, it takes a second.
Okay, so here's what's going on. All right. This is Missouri. Springfield's right here. There's St. Louis. Let's go south of St. Louis. I couldn't remember my towns. I used to work in Springfield a long time ago. Eminence, that's Shannon County, Carter County, Ripley County. That's a supercell. This cell right here, east of Eminence, got large hail. Well, I just lost my screen. There we go. 2-inch hail it's showing. 2-inch hail moving off to the east, and strong indication of a tornado east of Eminence, and that stuff's moving east, folks. So it's not a maybe, sorta, kinda. The reason the velocity doesn't look really good is because it's 118 miles from the radar. That's a bad radar coverage. There is no good radar for Eminence and Carter and Ripley counties. There's another one by West Plains. Love West Plains. Another supercell. So how do you know it's a supercell? You look for inflow. You look for a forward flank. You look for a rear flank, and it comes back around. There's your triple point near Moody. This is the kind of stuff that I'm really hoping. Mallory and I have got our fingers and our toes crossed that these supercells can gel into a cluster,
yes.
which is a squall line, and that would be a wind threat.
Yes.
Wind, heavy rain is a good thing. If you had a choice between wind and heavy rain or a tornado, I'll take wind and heavy rain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
I think that's a lot of the questions that we've been getting in here. People, obviously, tornadoes spark a lot of storm anxiety for people.
Yep.
People want to know what our tornado threat is. And I was just kind of pointing that out. I was like, if it's more clustered, we're going to have a wind threat. If we have those supercells, that's when we really have to worry about that large hail and the tornado threat.
So my forecast, I don't want to speak for Mallory, but I really feel if you go north of the parkways, the BG and the Western, if you go along and north of there, I think the primary hazard is wind, heavy rain.
Yeah.
If you go along and south of the parkways, especially southwest of 65, you're into hail, tornado, and a wind threat. So we have to figure out if this is going to congel. And that one cell, let's go to ours here. Let's go see that one cell you found. Where was that thing? Down there in Metcalfe County, Columbia?
Yeah, heading toward Adair.
Yeah, it's so far subdued. I think that's in the cooler air.
It's pretty little.
Yeah, that may have a little elevated hail. If you're near Gradyville, I wouldn't be surprised you get some peas. Yeah, that's got a bit of a left mover on it. Yeah, see that left mover on the backside? That's going to be some hail.
Okay.
That's, oh my gosh, Metcalfe County. I don't have a good town. Somewhere between Edmonton and Gradyville. And you see the lightning there, but right now we're okay. They've got flash flood warnings or flood warnings still from the earlier stuff. And that's what really concerns me. If this line is really interesting as it moves to the east, if it really elongates and goes west to east over time, I think there's a big flash flood threat late this evening down south. They're already wet anyway.
Right.
So that is a concern. Look at all that lightning from the first wave, folks. That's all in eastern Kentucky, Pulaski County. I mean, that's a lot of lightning. So that's that right now. Let's go back to Missouri. Anyone want to go back to Missouri? Let's go there. All right. Tornado warnings, Shannon County, Carter County. There's a new tornado. Well, that thing, they can cancel that. There's no threat there in Washington County, west of there. That county could be cleared. Crawford County, that thing's more elevated now. Yeah, it's moving out. That warning will expire. Big severes, that's how St. Louis, there's always a warning strategy at the Weather Service, how we're going to handle these and why you would go T-O-R, the tornado warnings, why you wouldn't. Notice this one's got a right mover now. Okay, there you go. That's a really good indication of a tornado. Look at the storm coming out of Shannon County. That's going to go into Carter County. It's turning more to the south and southeast. That would be one that if I was a storm chaser or I was just a concerned citizen, I'd be hitting the deck as you're going towards Van Buren. So that's how the office is issuing. And then you got a Renegade, the one in West Plains. That's moving 60 miles an hour. Mallory set off to the northeast. But she'll give you an update of what's going on here right now.
Oh, you're good. You take it away.
Okay.
They were hearing from me for the first hour. So.
I know. I was trying to get in
No,
here.
you're fine. No, you're fine.
Yeah, that's a left mover. That's pretty fascinating. Look at this is what's interesting tonight on an event like this. So you think all the storms are going to move one direction. Well,
Right.
au contraire. So here you go. Let's look at this. You got one in Shannon County. That's going to the southeast. That's a bit of a right mover. The one on the north side there in Reynolds County, that's kind of moving due east. But then let's go to the west. Look at this mess. Try forecasting this. So you got Howell County. You got a northeast mover, big hail threat. Let's see, what's the hail threat on that? The hail threat is, what do they got? 1 inch. But what's more interesting is the left mover here. Look at this one up on Willow Springs, how it's going way left. Yeah, that's got hail in it too. So if you're in Willow Springs, you're about to get some hail. So that's just how we have to deal with all these different cells. Here's another one in Arkansas. Let's go down to the Arkansas radar. Arkansas, let's see, AR, Little Rock, there you go, okay. And you got a supercell down there.
I think it just takes a minute to load, but.
I'm learning. She's very patient. She should get a patience award. Yeah, it's got a supercell right there. And that's moving more into the east, but that's a classic thing. Look how it's trying to wrap around, and everyone always talks about the hook. If you had a hook, it would be right about here. And the velocity's terrible. That's because the radar coverage is terrible there. I mean, it's not good. It's very bad. So let's go back to us and check on our storm. I love this GR. I'm very happy.
We got him, well, it's always been here, but now we've gotten it set up for you, so.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
You can help me.
Yeah, I'm glad to.
With some storm coverage.
Yeah, Adair County, that's our county. If you're and my favorite Kentuckian is in Adair County. The best magician who did 15,000 shows in Vegas lives in Adair County, Lance Burton. And you've got some hailers coming in towards Columbia, very heavy rain. If you're down in Columbia, you'll be getting some very heavy rain. Don't hydroplane, slow down, turn around, don't drown. The models really were showing some afternoon stuff down south, basically from Nashville towards Adair County and Casey County, Lincoln County, and that's where they are. I mean, I'm amazed. Years ago, we couldn't do any of this. Nothing. We've come a long way. What do you want to do, an overview of what's going on?
We can talk about an overview. So let's give the big picture view. Once again, if anybody's just hopping on, meteorologist Mallory Schnell here with meteorologist John Gordon. And we're just having a pretty casual chat about what we're seeing this afternoon, what's to come, what our threats are this evening, to kind of get you ready for the newscast this evening and get you ready for any kind of severe weather that we see later on. As we mentioned, obviously all this sunshine that we're seeing from all of our city cams that we have around, we're taking that live look outside from our First Savings Bank U of L health camera. Downtown Louisville, you're like, the sun's back out. Oh, we love it. It's beautiful. No, not on a day like today.
Yeah.
You don't want to see the sun. We wanted those clouds to hang on for as long as possible, but we knew that this was the setup for today. So we had that morning rain. We had severe thunderstorm warnings due to some hail embedded in there. A lot of lightning as well. That all pushed off to the east. And now we're getting all that clearing that you can see. So Southern Indiana obviously saw the clearing first. That is now moving down throughout Kentucky, and that's allowing that atmosphere to recover. Temperatures are jumping. Dew points are starting to jump as well. The atmosphere is getting juicy again, and we're tracking those storms that, I mean, I've only been here, I guess I've been streaming since 2, and I can tell you just how quickly these storms, they're moving 60 miles per hour or so. So interstate speeds or so, as they continue to track east. So yeah, St. Louis, that's about 4 hours from here. Obviously, it doesn't do that exactly, but
6 to 7.
6 to 7 is when we'll start to see some stuff.
Rush hour, I would rush home before rush hour.
Yeah, 5 o'clock.
If you can get out today, tell your boss,
before 5.
I need to get out of here.
Yeah, definitely a good plan there because obviously these cells are popping and they're becoming tornado warned as expected. So we're going to be watching that. We're also going to be watching any kind of development that we see out ahead of that. Oh, sometimes this doesn't show where I want it to. And that's when we have to be concerned about any kind of individual cells with that tornado and hail threat as well.
So we are not hyping this at all. I will always tell it to you straight. This is the real deal tonight. I think there's specific threats depending where you live. We cannot tell you I'll let Mallory go through that again.
Yeah, well, this is the severe weather outlook. I know you all have been seeing this time and time again. We got upgraded.
We thought it would expand yesterday, and it's expanded big.
Yep. It's now over to Cincinnati, Lexington. I mean, it's all of Kentucky, Anna, every county. So down to Nashville, and then obviously where we're seeing those storms initiate this afternoon in southeastern Missouri, Illinois, northeastern Arkansas, where that meets as well. So that's your level 4 out of 5. And you're looking at all severe weather hazards possible.
And Mallory's been talking about this all week, so this is no surprise. They ramped it up, what they typically do. The reason that red is there is because of the individual probabilities. So she's got first the wind, and that's maxed out. That's as high as they go. I don't think they go higher than that. I've never seen higher than that. 45% hatched. And that means a lot of wind across the entire area.
Yes.
Very high confidence forecast.
Yes, so that is our wind threat. And then obviously a lot of people want to know tornado threat. So we're in the red.
Yeah, and we're not only in the red, we're in the hatched.
Hatched red.
And when you're in a hatch, that means in that red area, they're going to have at least one EF2, which is 111 miles an hour higher tornado in there. And you saw yesterday, up in Wisconsin, they were in the hatch 15, and by golly, they got some tornadoes. So, I mean, I think that's legit. I really do. If I was to draw that, I would probably draw it a little bit different on the hatched. I really feel strong on the parkways, right along those parkways, maybe as high up as Evansville, maybe. Really depends on all that stuff comes flying out of Missouri, and it's about, we're talking 3 to 4 hours away.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've just been waiting for the storms to initiate. Now they're starting to initiate. So, you know, we can do the best we can to prepare you for the possible scenarios.
And we got hail up on there.
Yes.
And they changed this which we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
So Mallory and I really thought the threat was more to the west because the hail threat is more associated with the supercells.
Yes.
Which are ongoing right now. So you're going to see some reports from national news of, I guarantee you're going to see some golf balls and
some of the warnings already had golf ball size hail. Well, within
175, 2-inch teacup hail and hen egg hail. You're going to see some. That's what they are.
The objects are just.
They are just funny. I didn't make this up.
Teacups.
I think teacup is 2 1/4.
I always have to bring up the
little sheet.
The little legend.
I know baseball's 2.5.
Yes.
And golf balls are 175. I always forget the order of teacup and hen egg. But anyway, big hail. And that's mainly off to the west. I probably would draw that maybe up to Grayson County. Maybe Grayson and you guys don't cover Butler. But anyway, the southwestern part of our area. That's where I would really think you could move that purple a little bit to the east. And what SPC's doing there is they're basically taking where the transition is, where it becomes a linear cluster, a bow echo, where all those cells get absorbed into a giant red mass, and then it becomes more of a wind threat. That's why they're doing it. What, did you correct me? What is it, 2?
No, I'm just looking.
What is 2?
2 is lime.
No, I've never heard that. Tennis ball, isn't tennis ball 2, like 250?
2.5. This says baseball is 2.75.
It's 275, that's
We're
right.
looking up the size of hail.
Yeah, there's another one.
Grapefruit, 4.
Yeah, I've seen grapefruit.
You've seen grapefruit?
I've seen it. I was not in it.
Oh, okay.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've been there.
No, thank you.
Someone came into the refrigerator and had to show it to me. They'd captured it. It had all these odd shapes, brontosaurus shapes. It was very strange.
No, thank you.
So anyway, that's why the hail threat is there right now.
Yes.
So I still think
Wind.
the #1 threat is wind.
Which should still be taken very seriously.
Very seriously. Hey,
Of course.
Ronald Reagan was 10 minutes away from dying as a microburst hit Andrews Air Force Base in 1986, 136 mile per hour gust, which is strong as an EF3 tornado. So you think, well, it's wind. I have seen, what was that, the country band in Indy, Sugarland concert where the stage collapsed and killed people and injured people.
Yeah.
That was not from a tornado. That was from wind.
Yeah. And I think that can happen after events like these. People are like, a tornado had to have happened where I was. And sometimes, yes, but that's why we have people survey the damage. And sometimes straight line winds do just as much damage, if not more, depending on the setup. So it is really important that even if you are, quote, just under a severe thunderstorm warning tonight, that you take that just as seriously.
Hen egg is 2 inches. Ping pong 1.5, set 1.75 tennis ball, 2 inches hen egg. I think teacup is 2 1/4.
I feel like you're making up teacup.
I'm not, okay.
I believe you, though.
I mean, I'm really, all right, I'm gonna look it up.
This is just
No one believes me, I tell you.
Teacup.
Oh, there it is.
3 inches.
3 inches, it's bigger. See, I was wrong. All right.
I mean, that's okay.
But anyway.
You
Big
don't want
hail.
that falling from the sky.
You don't want that falling from you. So
It's basically all you need to know.
also, the Weather Prediction Center has got a slight risk. I personally think they could almost go on the moderate risk.
Yeah, they've been
especially-
staying on slight for this,
Yeah.
but as we were talking,
could be down southern
south,
Kentucky.
yeah, where we do have a flood watch in place.
That
So
was
they
a good
went
move
ahead
by
and
the Weather Service.
issued
Very good
that.
flood watch.
So that's to deal with the saturated ground from this morning.
Yep.
And then if these storms go west to east
Yep.
as we head into tonight.
Totally
So
agree.
this will take us into the early morning hours tomorrow. So this is currently south of Louisville,
Yeah.
where we did have the heavier rain and the storms more so this morning as well.
I was just reading the area forecast discussion from the Weather Service in Louisville. Mark's on. He mentioned this. He says, ample shear shows up nicely with horizontal convective rolls across much of western Kentucky. So you saw that when we did the satellite a few minutes ago. You could see those little bubbles in western Kentucky. Those are those convective rolls. Those are usually a good sign that severe weather is on the horizon. They're still worried about this boundary from this morning. If that boundary, so the next several hours, we'll continue to watch to see if the storms will form along the convective boundary. They have a system called the WHAS, that's the Warn on Forecast system, is rolling in. Everyone say hi to Connie. And is rolling in and trying to initiate that area. So at least some isolated scattering. You see that one in Adair County right now, although the instability down there was not very strong yet. So
What I have up is just if anybody wants to text us questions, but we've been talking about that for quite some time.
Oh, there's viewers? Or?
Oh, I've been keeping an eye on any kind of questions.
Send
that
us
have been
your
rolling in.
questions.
Yeah.
Okay, back, want to do the radar again, or?
Sure. You want to talk about what you're seeing?
Yeah, let's do that. We'll
He's
do
got decades of deciphering that. Yes, you do.
I'm old. I saw Lincoln get killed. All right, so that one in Adair County, one thing on that Mallory was just talking about is we have not recovered enough down there in Adair County. That is why that storm is probably produced at most some pea-sized hail.
Yeah.
Now, let's go to the west. You think, what's the big deal? Why are they hyping all this? Well, we're not hyping it. Look at this Armageddon in eastern Missouri. That's Shannon County. If you ever go to the Ozarks, great place to go floating on the current river, James River. It's a wonderful place to go. Take your family. There it is. Look at that hook echo. There she blows. That's probably on the ground. The problem is the radar cannot detect anything because it's 117 nautical miles from Springfield to the Paducah radar. There is no good radar.
That's tricky.
It's terrible. But if you look, okay, so here we go. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we go down. There's the hail. There's the big hail. It's showing 2.75. That's baseballs. That's not good. Is that good, Connie? Not
No,
good.
baseball hail.
Look at that thing come around and hook in there. And that's a really good defined hook echo. At least that is a giant wall cloud with a funnel cloud that hasn't reached. At best, there's a tornado, or worse, as the case may be. It's on the ground there. That would be, that's Van Buren, near Van Buren. And we'll do a movement on that. That's moving off to the east. That would not be good to be under. If you're on Highway 60 and you hear my voice, you might want to pull over. If you're in Elsinore, they just extended the tour, and they'll probably have to reissue as you go off to the east. The one to the north, that's a big hailer. They got a tornado warning on that. That doesn't look like it's completely wrapped yet. Where else? Where's that renegade? Yeah, I told you earlier about that left mover. Look at that left mover. It splits, too. See that, Mallory? So you got that one right here. Boom. So the right one could be the tornado threat, and the left one becomes the hailer. And look at that little hook on both sides.
Okay.
A lot of wind shear. Lots of wind shear, which is not good. Then we go up further to the north, Rolla, and if you're on 44, up there near Rolla and Mizzou, you've got a right mover there, a bit of a right mover. That's, I can't remember my roads. Edgar Springs, south of Rolla. I can't remember this road. Anyway, that's got hail and wind in it. Let's go up to the St. Louis Metro. Look at the lightning. Gargantuan amounts of lightning.
That's a lot.
And they just tore it. So they just took a severe, he told me how to turn the lightning off yesterday. Let's see, is it panel, Windows,
I'm
showcase?
afraid to
Yeah, I turned this off, there it is.
Okay.
Look at that.
You got it.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Kevin, if you can hear me, God bless you. All right, they just toured that. That's the St. Louis Metro. Tornado warnings ongoing. If you're at the Arch, if you're downtown, you're in Forest Park. That's got gargantuan hail and a sign of let's see, I got to change to Springfield. Hold on, gang. You're going to like it better here in a second. We'll go to select. We got to go to St. Louis. We hit OK, and watch what you're about to see. This will not look pretty. Mallory tells me to be patient.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be
This
patient.
is moving right over.
Yeah, they got a
St. Louis.
2-inch hail. Look at that hook echo.
Look at the purple.
So you've got a big hook echo right now in the St. Louis Metro, on 155, on 275, right on the interchange with all the interstates come together. If you're in the St. Louis Metro, I really advise, tell your friends, tell your family. This is the real deal. Tornado warning in the St. Louis Metro. That's why there's a moderate risk. That's why there's a tornado watch. That's a really smart severe too. If I was working, I would make the biggest, fattest severe thunderstorm warnings you could with big hail, and then I would focus on the TORs.
Yeah.
And that's what St. Louis has done.
What they're doing.
Really good tornado warning. That covers, it goes over on 70 eastbound out of St. Louis. Very, very dangerous situation. Let's see if they got CC here. Do I see anything? Do I see anything? Let's go to there. We're looking for debris. Hard to tell if that's legit right there. That could be legit. I can't tell. It's in the ground clutter. We'll go back to reflectivity. Yeah, that's in the right spot. That could be a little debris. It's not clear because of the noise. So anyway, that's what's going on. Now we go north of there. Mark Twain country along the Mississippi up there in Greene County and Carrollton. That's another hook echo. Look at that thing go. That's got huge hail, heavy rain on the north side. And there's your rear flank downdrift coming back around. That could become tornadic. They put a severe right now. They probably got severe tor possible in there. Back to the southwest on the St. Louis radar. You know it's bad when the St. Louis radar shows the Van Buren storm looking like that. I really believe there's a tornado on the ground right now in southeastern Missouri, over there by Van Buren. That's heading east. The people of Poplar Bluff, for right now, you're going to be saved for once. The one thing I'm really looking at for us, if we come back to Louisville, let's go back to Louisville. We're going to go to the Louisville radar. And there's a boundary over western Kentucky that I'm kind of watching if you look at the velocity once this thing pops up. Right? A little bit right in there. Over there towards Evansville. So that, if we can break the cap, the lid that's right over us right now, then we would have a problem. So right now, if that layer of warm air stays on us, we just have to wait for the stuff coming out of Missouri. But going back to Missouri, do you mind if I go back to Missouri?
Go for it.
I'm telling you, folks, if you have all your friends, I went to school in St. Louis. This is a dangerous, one of the worst tornadoes in American history hit St. Louis in 1896. Hit the Eads Bridge, very bad. There's a large supercell in the St. Louis Metro right now, about to cross, we'll cross the river here shortly, but it's on the western side of the Metro, St. Louis County, Maryland Heights, Forest Park, large hail in the Metro right now. And there's your hook echo. That's the thing we saw here on April 3rd, 1974. I'm going to stop it for just a second. On the right, we'll go and look at the different velocities. Look at that hail. Oh my God, look at that.
Oh no.
That's not good.
Is that the St. Louis storm?
Yeah, St. Louis storm. That's at least golf balls.
Yeah.
We're into those funny things we did a minute ago. That we're into the bad stuff. Hen egg, not good. Let's see. See, I think right there could be something. Maybe. We'll see. Big hail. There's the area most concerning that shows amount of disorder in the storm. Yeah, that's not a good thing. Let's look at the movement on that St. Louis storm. Enormous hail. If the tornado's going to form, it's going to be more on the south side towards Clayton. And it's trying to wrap up. Yeah, that's the storm of interest. And that's complicated to chase in a city. Mallory and I know about all these people who go chase bad storms. They got a 2-inch in there right now. Can we pull up that one? See, I don't know how to pull up the warning in GR. Yeah. But anyway, that's a bad storm. You have 3 really, really bad supercells right now. 2 in southeastern Missouri, Carter County, Ripley County. They'll be moving east. Before long, we'll be mentioning our counties, okay? Well, you got between, right, what is it right now? 341. So between 6:30, maybe in our far west, 6:15.
Yeah.
Maybe our west.
I would say, yeah, 6 o'clock hour, yeah.
6 o'clock hour.
We'll start to see some of those.
I-65 corridor, close to 7, 6:45, 7:15, somewhere in there.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. Always you have to give and take a little bit with these, but we're doing the best we can to keep you all prepared as we head into this evening. Yeah,
so the one thing that I like to look at is what SPC is doing. The Storm Prediction Center, they're the ones who put up all the watches and everything, and right now, let's look to see their MDs. How do I get back to the main page? No. All right, so the MDs are really important. If you go there they are. Let's look at this one right here. So this is a great new feature. They used to have boring products. They were boring, a good place to snooze. They have the best products now. They give you an analysis. So what Mallory and I have been talking about is that warm front. There's the warm front that comes north of the Louisville Metro. So we're in the warm sector. We're 80 whatever degrees.
Yeah, we're in the low 80s.
Low 80s. That goes back into the right near where that supercell is in the St. Louis Metro. There's the cold front. Notice nothing behind the cold front. Over. Game over, like Pac-Man.
Yep.
And you see this right here. That's 5,000. That's a bad number. It shows you the amount of fuel in the atmosphere. And they've really pinpointed that those supercells between about I-70 near St. Louis to south of there, all the way down to the US 60 if you ever travel between Springfield and Louisville. That's really where they're thinking. Rash of supercells moving rapidly from the south central and eastern Missouri, isolated cells extending in northern Arkansas, and the warm front. Yeah, a combination of cold, mid-level temperatures and ample moisture and fuel. Deep layer wind shear, providing a favorable, here's what they put in. This was SPC. Extremely, not just favorable, but extremely favorable environment for large hail, 3 to 4 inch in diameter. In addition, 0 to 1, your helicity, that's a measure of the wind shear with height, remains in place, sufficient for a tornado risk. The greatest tornado risk is across southeastern Missouri, eventually shifting to southern Illinois and western Kentucky, just like we've been saying. Yeah. I'll let Mallory go and do a few things.
No, you're good. Right. No, I appreciate the analysis. I really do.
Okay.
So I know a lot of people are still wondering, most of the questions that we get is all about timing. When is it going to hit my house? Which we joke about, but I understand. You all want to plan your day. You want to plan your evening. You want to know when to get home. Obviously, earlier is better this evening. If you can be in, you can be at home, you can be wherever you're trying to get. As we mentioned, during the 6 o'clock hours, when we're really going to be paying attention to things moving into our viewing area. The question is, will we see any of those cells develop out ahead of the main line, or do we just wait for these cells that are firing up around St. Louis throughout Missouri that will continue to march our direction? Regardless, it's looking to be during the 6 o'clock hour, we have to start being weather alert, taking us through 11, and then by midnight, I will say all of the model data does have it out of here. That has been one consistent thing.
We can all wave at midnight. Let's do a wave.
Go to bed, enjoy the weekend. Have some margaritas, the right kind of ice, not the hail.
I love margarita. Doug Profit, if you're listening now.
It's an ongoing joke with John Gordon.
I love margaritas.
I mean,
don't you? Yeah. Who doesn't like a margarita?
That's the only time we like ice, right?
Yes, we like ice, yes. There we go, Doug.
So it's 3:44. We just have to get through the next 8 hours. And then beyond that, we can enjoy that nicer weekend. But SatRad, once again, we're in the in-between right now. We had the activity this morning. If I put this on a loop, all that's off to our east. We've had clearing, which once again, with this kind of setup on severe weather potential days, I'm sure you probably know when you see that sunshine, you want to be like, oh, the sun's back out. Not a good thing. And most of us, I think even the viewers at home, know that sunshine is not a good thing. It allows the atmosphere to recover, gives us more of that instability and fuel to tap into. And as John was kind of analyzing all these storms that are rolling through Missouri and now Illinois, they're marching eastward quickly. They have a large hail threat. They have a tornado threat, as we are seeing here. And we'll likely see these kind of congeal, hopefully, into kind of a more linear segment or segments. And then that transitions over to that wind threat that we are still very concerned about. Wind, heavy rain, lightning.
Right.
But that would help take away some of that tornado threat and the hail threat as well.
So what's going on right now, see those cells down here? There's still cloud cover basically along and south of the parkways. If you look at a temperature map, you would notice that the temperature across, look at the difference between southern Kentucky and up here.
Let's see if we can pull up.
She's got all the buttons here.
All the buttons. Oh, not all.
I have not been trained on all this.
So yeah, there's still some 70s down there. They were in the lower 70s not too long ago because the cloud cover, obviously it's taking them longer to recover compared to these lower 80s that we have to the north.
Take a look at Paoli.
Yeah.
Paoli. So right now you've got the stuff that's down there, and once again we got another little shower. If you're in southern Metcalfe County going, that will be in Adair County before you know it. The one in Adair went up into Casey. Once again, the worst case scenario, a couple P's or BB hail. I would not be surprised you see some of the high-res computer models. Can we show the latest HR?
Yep.
Let's do that.
This
is one I like, is it initializes every hour on the antecedent what's going on now. If it's wrong in the first hour, then it's probably wrong every hour after.
It's trying to pop those few little things, yeah.
And it's been doing that since this morning. All right, there you go. See the individual discrete cells there? That's 630. This is the HR. Notice it's not congealing them right now. Earlier one did, and they keep changing. So let's go a little further. And there you go. So once again, see how the northern part is more, it's more conglomerated together. And then you've got these odd ones that are south of 64. That one that's out there towards Perry County, Tell City, out towards Breckenridge County, down to Grayson County. Those are the ones that could have tornado warnings this evening. I think in my opinion, you'll see more tornado warnings to the southwest and west, and you'll see more severes, possibly severe with possible on the north side. I think that's going to be their move. That's what I do. Then you've got this giant mess. That's interesting. For sure there's going to be a bow echo come through, but it keeps changing, more on the south, more on the north. But notice, when you get something right there, if that's true, even if it's 70% true, that is a major flash flood problem. Sometimes weather people forget about the flooding. They're all worried about the severe weather. What kills more people? Flooding.
Flooding. At night, especially.
Especially
in the car.
And what time is that? It's 10 o'clock at night. That's not good if you're down there in southern Kentucky at all.
And then, but still, one thing that's been pretty constant.
Yeah, it's out of here.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, I'll be heading home to my jacuzzi. So, yes. Everyone should have a jacuzzi. Anyway, right now we just got a couple little showers down there in Casey County. Let's go back if we could, if you don't mind. I'm going to look at St. Louis. St. Louis, that will be all over national news. I guarantee this will be on David Muir tonight. Look at that wrapped up. Totally wrapped up. What is that button? Where is there's the CC. Yeah, maybe in there, maybe. Wrapped up. There it is, the NROT. There it is. Yeah. Not good. The computer is saying with the TDS, that little thing I showed you, EF1 tornado. The base is at 1,300 feet. I really believe there is a tornado on the north side or in the metro of St. Louis right now. At least, at minimum, they've got golf ball hail. High end, they could have 3-inch hail. Very bad in the St. Louis metro. Roofers and car dealers, there'll be a hail sale in St. Louis very soon. Not good. That storm is a beast. I'm being very serious, folks. If you have friends in Edwardsville, along I-70, Glen Carbon, Mitchell, Granite City, along the river, not good. That's a very dangerous storm. That's extreme. That's on the north side of St. Louis. If you live in the suburbs of St. Louis, the northeast side of St. Louis, Glasgow Village, Mitchell, I really believe there's a tornado on the ground right now, just north side of St. Louis. Yeah, there it is. It's pegging it right there.
Yeah.
Right there. Let's see if the debris, if we can get this through time. Yeah, it's on the ground. I believe there's a tornado on the ground on the north side of St. Louis. So that's what we're talking about, folks. Mallory and I are not doing streaming because we're bored. Look at the hook echo right there.
Yeah.
Very dangerous storm in the St. Louis metro right now.
And obviously we're showing this because it's what's heading our direction.
We don't. I know you're wondering. We don't live in St. Louis. Well, that's heading your way. And you notice in the last 10 minutes since I came in here, there's more and more of these little cells. You got a left mover here in Washington County. You've got a right mover down by Farmington.
That's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, that's going to be a busy night. There's a right mover. I still think that's on the ground. The problem is you can't tell if that's on the ground because the radar's up at 10, 11,000 feet. That's the storm. That's Wayne County, Mount Spring. That's a textbook. It's not good if you're there. That's a textbook tornado signature that we study, that Mallory and I worked our tail off to get our degrees. That thing is a beast. There's another one. That's a giant hailer with a bit of a rotation there near Annapolis. That's moving off to the east. All that stuff in Missouri, folks, is heading here. It's here. It's heading here. Oh, it's got confirmed now. Yeah, they took that debris ball. It's a confirmed tornado, north side of St. Louis. Edwardsville, there's a college there. Edwardsville, right off the interstate. There's a way station right there on I-70. It's heading along I-70. Tornado on the ground in the St. Louis metro. They've already had giant, enormous hail. And then you've got a mess to the north. Look at this little line. Look at this beast. That's a nasty cell. You got hard wind, you got wind, and you probably got there. Look at the last scan there. Look at that thing right there. Yeah, right there. Probably a tornado. It's trying to form on the north. That's up north of St. Louis. But tornado, right now, a tornado on the ground, north side of St. Louis, really heading towards Granite City. I would be, yeah, you got to seek shelter. There's definitely things being vaulted up in the atmosphere right now. Let's go up high. Yeah, definitely look at that right there. Yep. Up. Tornado on the ground. Granite City. That stuff, fortunately, if you track that one out, that would miss the metro here. But there are other bad things already there. That just shows you. So, folks, if you're traveling, I would not travel towards St. Louis right now. If you're traveling, go east or go south or go north now. This stuff is coming.
Right. I think we're going to start to wrap up this stream because we have to get ready for our newscast this evening. But please continue to tune in. We'll both be here all evening. We have our regularly scheduled newscast on WHAS11 starting at 4. We'll be on air through 6:30. And then, of course, if there warrants us cutting in for tornado warnings, we will be with you wall to wall in continuous coverage until that threat is over. But we are looking at storms probably in Kentuckiana during the 6 o'clock hour.
Yep.
And then we're all free. We're all clear around midnight, I would say.
We'll be here all evening.
Yep. So please continue to stay weather alert. And once again, join us for our newscast starting at 4 o'clock. Stay weather alert. Stay informed this evening. Stay safe. And of course, yes, once again, we'll be here all evening. So
execute your preparedness plan now. Have a plan.
Yes, that way when the time comes, you're not worried, you're not scrambling, you know what to do for you and your family. So thanks for tuning in to this live stream. Meteorologist Mallory Schnell with John Gordon. And once again, we'll be with you all night. We'll hop back on these streams if necessary. Stay safe. Yeah, let me look.